What's up guys, welcome to another JavaScript lesson for beginners. In this lesson we are going to learn about loops. Before we start, what are loops? Loops are basically used to do something repeatedly in JavaScript as well as other programming languages. Actually, I think the better way to understand loops is with examples. What I have on the screen are the loops we are going to learn. We are going to learn about while loop, do while, for loop, for off, for in, as well as nested loops and other stuff. These are just comments. We learned about comments in one of our previous lessons, that JavaScript kind of ignores comments. They are not part of the codes that are executed. So these are just notes of the things we are going to learn. I have a file in VS Code called loops.js. You can name it whatever you like. That doesn't matter. So let's get started. Let's take a look at the while loop. First, the syntax, the way it is written. We say while, not white, while condition is met, do some. So this is the syntax of while loop. While certain condition is met, you write while, inside the parentheses, you put whatever condition. For example, if age is less than 12, anything, right? While the condition is met, keep doing whatever that is inside the curly braces. So the loop will repeat doing whatever that is inside the curly braces as long as the condition is met. Unless, however, we have something that changes the condition such that at some point this condition is no more met. Oftentimes, almost in every case, you are going to have something that changes the condition, this very condition. You are going to have that such that at some point the loop stops running. If you don't have something that changes this condition at some point so that it is no more met, the loop will run forever, theoretically, right? So let's see a very simple example so that this will be clearer. As a very simple example, assuming that you want to print a number multiple times, a number of times. For example, if you want to print the number 3, let's say 20 times, you can do console.log 3. We are displaying 3 in the console, just the number 3. You have to repeat this 20 times. I mean, you get the point. If you want to print that number 20 times, right? If I save and run this, we are going to have the number 3 printed as much time as we wrote console.log. What if you are going to do this 1000 times? It means you are going to do it like this 1000 times, which is a lot of codes and doesn't make sense. But because we can use loops to do something repeatedly, let's actually simplify this with loops. We said that the syntax is while certain condition is met, do something. So I'm going to have a variable here. Let me call it count to start from 0. Then I'll come down here and say while count is less than 20, because we want to print something 20 times. What do we want to do? Just console.log the number 3. Save it. The problem is, if I run this code, the loop will run non-stop because count, which is 0, is always less than 20. That brings us to something that changes the condition, which is this. This is the condition. What we can do is to increase count. For every time the loop runs, we increase count by 1 by saying count to be equal to whatever the current value of count is plus 1. So initially, count will be 0. The first time the loop runs, it gets to this point, you'll be like, okay, count was 0, but now I'm going to say count should be 0 plus 1. So count will be 1. The loop will continue to run because 1 is less than 20. The loop will run again. So you come here and say, okay, count will now be whatever value of count plus 1. That should be 1 plus 1. That is 2. It will come up here again and check, is 2 less than 20? Yes. It will keep doing that until when count is 20, the loop will check, is 20 less than 20? No. At that point, the loop will stop running, right? So count equal to count plus 1 is the part of code that changes the condition. And we can actually make this shorter by saying count plus plus is the same thing as saying count to be equal to count plus 1. If I save this and run, you can see we get 320 times, right? This is a simple example of while loop. Before we look at another type of loop, remember that this condition can just be something even more complex than this. Let's say, I don't know if this even makes any sense. Let's say age 12. You can say while count is less than 20 and age is less than 20, less than whatever, 24, right? So you can write whatever thing you want to write here. The condition. That is that, by the way. The next thing we are going to look at is the do while loop. Let me actually give you an example, another example with while loop, so that it will help you understand the do while loop. Assuming you are chatting with someone, you want to continue chatting with the person if the person is replying, so that you are not chatting with yourself, right? Whether it is on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. When you are chatting with someone, you expect some reply before you continue chatting with the person. So we can say let getting replies to be equal to false. If we say while getting replies, you can say console.log chatting with Angela, whoever you are chatting with. As long as you are getting replies, you can continue saying that you are chatting with Angela. You continue chatting. But because this is false, this condition evaluates to false, not true, right? We are not going to get this line of code to run. Let me save and run. We don't get anything. Clear this console, run it. So there's nothing here because the condition is not met. It's false. We are not getting replies. The do while is actually different. The do while we first run whatever code that you have before checking the condition for the very first time. Let me comment this out. So how does it look? We say do, not do, do something while condition is met. So this is the syntax of the do while. Keep doing something as long as this condition is met. But first, it's going to do before checking the condition. Take a look at the while loop here. While loop checks the condition first before doing something. The do while we check we do whatever you want it to do for the very first time, only that very first time, before it checks the condition. Then if the condition is met, it will keep doing whatever you told it to do until the condition is no more met. In the case of getting replies, to continue chatting with getting replies, let me actually copy this. Why? Let's say that this is coming from do while. So this is coming from do while, the other one is coming from while, which is not going to run anyway. So do while we first of all do whatever that is inside this block, inside the curly braces, before checking the condition. If the condition is met, it will keep doing it. Save and run. I think I have an error somewhere. Okay, we have to change this to getting replies. Getting replies. Do this, but while getting replies, keep doing this, right? Save and run one more time. You see that do while says chatting with Angela, but the while loop doesn't say that. So that is how, that's just the basic difference between the two, right? Let me vary this a little. Let's say let me minutes be equal to 0. While getting replies and minutes is less than 5, I mean, I don't want to chat with Angela all day. Minutes plus plus. Then I will come down here and say minutes plus plus. What is going on here is we are checking two conditions. While we are getting replies and the number of minutes is still less than 5. Let me also add it here. Less than 5. Keep chatting with Angela, right? So what is going to happen is that in this case, we are getting replies. Let me change it to true. Are we getting replies? Yes. Is minutes less than 5? Yes, because 0 is less than 5. We keep chatting with Angela until minutes is no more less than 5, because we are increasing minutes for every time the loop runs. The same thing is happening here, but the only difference is that this will actually run like we saw earlier first before checking the condition. Let me comment one of these out. Save and run. You can see we keep chatting with Angela until the minutes condition is no more met. That is why we have it like this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If I comment this one out, go to the while loop, save, clear the console, run. This time we get the same exact result because the conditions are met. So that is it for the do while loop. The do while loop runs whatever that is inside the curly braces the first time before checking the condition, unlike the while loop that checks the condition first, right? Now let's look at another type of loop, the for loop. I will delete everything here. The for loop syntax is actually like this. That is the way we write it. For initialization, semicolon, condition, condition, come on, variation, semicolon, please. Then curly braces. We are going to see an example. This is just the syntax. Here we have some initialization. Here we have the condition that if the condition or conditions are met, whatever that is inside the curly braces will run. And we have variation. Oftentimes we use this to change the condition. We are going to see a quick example using what we used in the while loop. In the while loop, we said something like let count be equal to 0, and we say while count is less than 20, console.log the number 3. This is what we have in the while loop. We can actually do something similar using for loop. I'm going to remove this initialization here, come over here and replace it with this. That is initialization. Then what is the condition? Count less than 20, put it here. What is the variation? Remember that inside we said count plus plus, right? So I'm going to take the count plus plus, cut it, replace variation with it, and finally console.log. Remove every other thing, come here and put it. So this gives us exactly the same result we have using the while loop. For initialization, if this condition is met, do this. Then we vary the condition here, right? Let's save this and run. You can see we get, let me actually clear the console to be sure we're not getting the old result. So we get the same thing we got using while loop. This is how you write the for loop in JavaScript. It is also worth mentioning that all these are optional. You can remove all these, but the problem is you are going to have a loop that runs forever. That is theoretically, just like we said about while loop. When you don't have something that varies the condition such that at some point the condition is no more met. So that is just that. By the way, I will clear what we have on the console and we look at something else. Before we move on to the next type of loops, let's look at the break and continue statements and what situations they can be very useful. I'm going to make use of an array in this example. We learned about array in one of our previous lessons. I will say let current in amps be equal to array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will explain in a moment. For let I to be equal to 0, I less than current in amps dot length I plus plus. Just give me a moment, I will explain. Let's const actually current, that should be double R, current to be equal to current in amps I. Okay, so what is going on here is that we have an array of numbers. Let's assume that these numbers represent current, electric current flowing into an appliance, whether it is a radio, television, whatsoever. That's not our concern here. We are looping through items inside this array, right? We start from 0. When we learned about array, we said that the index starts from 0. So 1 is at position 0, 2 is at position 1, 3 is at position 2, in that order. Then as long as the I value is less than the length, that is total number of items in this array, we continue looping through each of the items in the array. We continue getting to each of them one by one. So at every point in time, the value we are working with is the value at index I. We learned about array. I've already said that. Okay. Now what you want to do is, this appliance, the maximum current it can take is 4 amps, right? Anything above 4 amps will damage the appliance. Let's just say radio. Anything above 4 amps will damage our radio. We don't want current of 5 amps, 6 amps and above. What you want to do is, when this current is above 4, I know this example might not make sense in real life or how radio work or something like that, but just so you understand what you're trying to do. Whenever the current is less than 4, we don't want to continue passing that current to the radio. How can we do this? It is actually simple using the break statement. What we can do is if current is greater than 4, we break. When you call break, the loop will basically terminate. At this point, it will stop running. Let me show you with by logging something to the console. You can say console.log what do we log? Current. We say above maximum. Breaking. Save that. I will come down here. I will do another console.log. This time I'm going to use object to display something to the console. We learned about object and we actually display some stuff using, we printed object in the console. Current to be current, come on, not that. And let's say action to be pass current to appliance. What is happening is if current is greater than 4, we break out of this loop. We stop executing whatever that is after this line of statements, right? So whatever that is here will not execute at this point. The time we call break, we break out of the loop. Let me actually save and run this so we see it in the console. Save and run. So you can see, let me expand this a little bit. When the current is 1, the action pass to appliance is executed. That is the action we have down here. We're just printing that to the console. So the condition current greater than 4 isn't met yet at the point when current is 1. When it is 2, we are fine. 3, we are fine. 4, we are fine. The moment it gets to 5, it says, is 5 greater than 4? Yes, it is greater than 4. What am I going to do? I will just break out of this loop. I'm not going to execute whatever that is down there at this point, and the loop will stop executing. So this is the break statement. When you call break statement, you are telling the loop to stop executing at this very point. It is not actually going to try to complete what is down here before it stops. It stops at this very point. That is for the break statement. To quickly look at the continue statement, this very one, let's actually modify our array a little bit. Let's say we have 2 here. We have 2, we have 1, we have 2 again, for example. You can see that although we have 5, which, let me add another one. Let's say it's 8, doesn't matter. You can see that both 5 and 8, they are above 4 amps, which is the maximum. But after that, we have other values that are within the safe range. So we can work with these values after these big values. The problem is with break statement, we are not going to make use of this. Let me save and show you an example. If I save, you can see that at 5, the loop stops completely. What if we can have it such that when the value is greater than 4, it will just continue, it will just skip and check what is next. Oh, 88 is greater than 4. I will check the next one, right? Whenever I find something that is less than or equal to 4, I'm going to execute whatever that is after the condition check. The way we are going to do that is actually straightforward. Instead of break, we say continue. Just put continue. What will happen is the same check as we have before. If current is greater than 4, we continue by simply checking the next item we have, right? But whatever that is here, that is whatever that is before that check, will still be executed until we see this continue statement. It means that when the value is 5, nothing after the continue statement will be executed, but the next value will be checked. The value is 88. Everything here will be executed until we check and the value is greater than 4. Nothing after here will be executed. And then we go to the next one. The value is 2. Okay, is 2 greater than 4? No. We execute every other thing, right? So we save and let's run that. You can see when it gets to 5, it says, okay, 5 is actually not breaking this time. It is continue. Save that, clear this console, run. It says that 5 is above the maximum. I'm going to continue. 8 is above the maximum. I'm going to continue. Okay, now I see 2. 2, we are good. 1, we are good. 2, we are good. So this is basically the difference between how we can use the break statement and the continue. Break terminates the loop execution completely, while continue basically stop at this point and checks if the next condition is met and executes again. Let's take a look at the for off and for in loop. To do that, assuming we have cities, an array of cities, let's say cities to be equal to array where we have Lagos, Mumbai, Amsterdam, Toronto, Canberra, etc. These are cities. Using the for of loop, we are going to get the values we have in this array. So let's quickly see an example for const. We say city of cities. So this is how you write the for of loop. You can call this variable whatever you want, but I think it makes sense to call it city. And this is the variable, the thing we are looping through using the of syntax, right? Here we can basically say console.log the city. Save, run. This will give us the cities. Now let us compare this using the for in loop. Let's compare the two. You can come down here and do something similar. Const, I will not call it city, I'll call it name or key in cities. Note the difference. The difference here is that we have in here, we have of. This city and key doesn't matter. You can still call it city, but the only difference is that the for in loop is not going to give us the values. Instead, it is going to give us the indexes. Remember when we learned about arrays, we said that the array index starts from 0. So Lagos is at position 0, Mumbai position 1, Amsterdam position 2, in that order. The for in loop will give us those names, the keys or the indexes. Let me actually call it index so it is clearer. What can we do? Let's just print the index. I will save and run this so you see the difference. Oh, just a moment. Okay, console.log, not just console. Save this, clear the console, run. You can see that we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is for this, but for the other one we have the value. So this gives us the index. But we can actually get the values from the index, of course, right? Remember how we access search in when we learned about arrays. So basically, when you have the array, you can get the whatever value at the specified index. If I save, comment this out so things are a bit clearer, the result we are getting. Let me actually clear the console, drag this up a little bit, run it one more time. You see that we get the values this time. So the key difference here is to note that this, when you use for off, you get the values. When you use this for an array, when you use the for in for array, you get the indexes. Okay guys, so we are going to look at the next item, which is nested loops. Please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so far, to help this channel grow and so that other people will have access to the content on the channel. We're going to look at nested loops. I am actually going to delete these items, close this guy. I will modify our array a little bit. Inside the array, we're going to have nested arrays. So I'll have cities in Africa, Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, and so on and so forth, and cities in Europe, Amsterdam, Berlin, Paris, and London. Asia, Mumbai, Tokyo, etc., etc. So this is just for example. What we are going to do is to loop through each of these items. We are going to use nested arrays for that, because let me actually do a very simple thing here. If I say for const cities, or let's say continent cities, something like that. For cities of continent cities, right? And do console.log cities, because each item in the array is also an array of cities. That is why I'm calling these cities. For every city of that continent cities, we basically do console.log print. You can see what we have are the arrays, not the values inside the array, right? It means that we can actually loop through each of the items inside each of these items in the bigger array. So we have cities, which is an array. What we are going to do is come inside here and do similar thing. For const city of cities, this time what do we want to do is say console.log city. So what we have here is a nested loop. We have a loop inside another loop. This way we can actually get each of the values inside this array. So it is possible to have nested loops, although oftentimes you want to avoid nested loops, especially if the number of items in the array is huge, because it is going to take a lot of time to process, to look through each of them. If I save and run this now, you are going to get each individual item, right? So guys, this is an example of nested loops, and that brings us to a journey good. So far we have covered every single item we have here, and I believe that it makes a lot of sense for someone who is a beginner. Until next time, happy coding.